Hey there, and welcome to Geopolitics 411. This has been such an intense week in Africa. A lot has been going on, but the key highlight has been the war in DRC Congo, which of course has been happening courtesy of the M23 militia group, which most people allude that it's backed by Rwanda, but the president of Rwanda says otherwise. So that's we're looking at the politics of the Rwanda-DRC Congo and why M23 is becoming such a mess politically. So the rebels have captured the larger swaths of land that are well rich in minerals. Of course, there's gold, there's diamond, there's a lot of minerals in the particular areas in Goma where these mercenaries or these militias want to take over and have taken parts of it. So this region is part of the North Kivu province, and Kinshasa, the United Nations, the US, and some other larger Western powers have said that confirmed that indeed Rwandan forces are the ones that are backing up the M23 in Goma. They're arguing that this militia would not have such a level of weaponry, such level of accuracy in terms of how they run their attack, unless they are backed by someone else who has the power. And in this case, they are saying it's Rwanda. And of course, as we know it, Rwanda does not produce weapons in Africa. Actually, in Africa, probably maybe South Africa is in a position to, but most countries, not even in East Africa, there's no country that produces firearms. So the question is, where then, if indeed they are backed by Rwanda, where is Rwanda getting the firearms from? So there must be another higher Western power. This is now my opinion and how I feel about it, that is backing Rwanda. And Rwanda, of course, now is used, word has it, Rwanda is used as a route where a lot of these minerals are taken out through Rwanda so that they can get to some Western nations. Remember, cobalt, which was one of the resources or minerals that is available in this particular location, is used in the making of phones, these electric cars, laptops, and a lot of other gadgets. So the world, especially the first world, who manufacture these things, are after these minerals, and that is why they are pushing for the war in Congo. So due to this, a lot has happened in the last 1 week. Embassies of countries that Congolese people feel support the M23, including that of Kenya, that of Uganda, that of France, among other nations, were burned down earlier in the week. And of course, they said that they are doing this to send a message to the countries. So for instance, for Kenya, the message is, we don't like how you're running this thing and how you're relating with us. Hence, burning down was a way of how they were communicating. So in Kinshasa, which is the capital of DRC, there were demonstrations that now took place immediately after this began. A few, maybe like 12 or 24 hours after the demos happened. So in these demos, the capital, which is the capital of DRC, what happened? They were actually burning posters and flags, posters of Rwanda's President Paul Kagame, burning the flag of Rwanda. And all this is because they were saying their anger is geared towards their belief that President Kagame is the one backing the rebels. So the citizens of DRC were communicating and saying how they feel about it through this. So for Congo, which is led by Felix Tshisekedi, or Jumuiya as they call it, called for a meeting. But the president of DRC, Tshisekedi, was missing in that meeting conspicuously. And he decided he wouldn't attend because he doesn't feel like the EAC regional leaders are really into helping aid these, or rather he feels like most of us in the EAC members support Rwanda's president, or Rwanda per se. So that's what was one of the reasons why he did not attend. He also condemned the inaction of international community in the face of what he's been describing as unprecedented worsening security situation. So that was one of the reasons why that meeting took place, because the East Africa head of states, which both countries are members, were led by Kenya's President Ruto, but the Congolese president was like, no, I'm not doing this because I don't agree with what is happening. So the EAC, after the meeting, the statement that they released was that the grouping heads of state called for an immediate ceasefire. I mean, I think everyone has been calling out for this, but their key message was calling for a peaceful settlement of the conflict. As we speak, We have not seen that peaceful end of conflict yet, but the leaders are meant to meet again and try and see how they can put maybe their forces together, their hands together, and just bring a whole ending to this conflict. So they also strongly urged Kinshasa to directly engage with all stakeholders, including the M23 and other armed groups that have grievances, because again, due to the number or the amount of minerals that are found in Congo, there are so many mercenary groups and armed groups that operate, each operating and securing mines. Like some of these mines are guarded by these groups. So the East African leaders urged the president of DRC to negotiate. However, Tshisekedi has taken a very strong stance, saying that he will not sit at the same table and negotiate with M23 militia, who he believes are being backed by the Rwandese president. And at some point, he's actually argued that this M23 are not Congolese citizens, but they are Rwandese citizens, which the president of Rwanda, on the other hand, says they are not Rwandese. So it's a catch. And how these people ended up being formed is during the 1994 Rwanda genocide that happened, a lot of the people who were involved in this massacre ended up running away from Rwanda when the peace was brokered. So they ended up running to Congo, and that's how they became part of the Congolese state. Paul Kagame, on his part, he maintains that the Rwandan army is not involved in this, but the UN experts have cited that the Rwandan army is actually the de facto party that is in control of the M23. And how they say this, UN argues that they have the evidence detailing how M23 recruits are trained and under Rwandan supervision and supported by high-tech Rwandan weaponry. So this is something that the president of Rwanda says is not true, and they're not in that. So the conflict began. Since the conflict began, the Rwandan president has always and all the time, not even just this time, even in 2012 when this whole militia came to be, since then he's been denying and saying Rwanda is not involved. However, the argument of the Hutus that moved to Congo side after the genocide, everyone looks at it as these are Rwandese who still feel they want to own part of the Congolese space. So that's why that happens. So according to the UN, they estimate that we have about 3,000 to 4,000 Rwandan army troops that are on the ground in Congo, and they say this is based on authenticated photographs, drone footage that they have used, video recordings and testimonies and intelligence. That is what they have used to come to a conclusion that indeed Rwanda is involved in this whole thing of M23. So from this issues that have been raised by UN, a lot of international bodies and organizations have called out Rwanda, and even countries, superpowers for that matter. Countries like Germany have actually withdrawn the aid that Germany cancelled the aid that talks that were ongoing. Britain, on the other hand, has threatened that they will withhold about $40 million that they put in as aid in Rwanda. And despite this backlash, still, President Kagame still stands for the fact that no, Rwanda is not involved. Something else that has developed since then since this emergence of this war is that South Africa is in the picture. And why South Africa is in the picture is because the SADC forces, which is the Southern African Development Community forces, were sent when the East African forces exit. The beginning of peace had East African forces that were sent to try and bring peace in the region. But the president of Congo at some point said, no, I don't want to work with these East Africans. And so what happened after that? They called in the SADC forces. So these SADC forces have been helping Congo to try and work out, bring peace. Unfortunately, after the attack with the M23, what has happened is that South Africa has lost about 13 of their troop members who were in this peace initiative, and they were looked at as peacekeepers. So after the death of these 13, the Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa, said that the M23 and Rwanda forces were responsible for the deaths of the 13 South African peacekeepers who were stationed in eastern DRC Congo. The Rwandan president came back and said that his country was, from the statement given by Cyril Ramaphosa, it means then they are ready to go to war. They are ready they are ready to have a confrontation with South Africa if indeed Ramaphosa feels that indeed Rwanda is that. And all this confrontation was happening on Twitter. So if you go to the pages of Kagame and Cyril, you'll see the exchange that happened. And I believe when countries begin to get to that level where even exchanges are done on the online space, it shows you how powerful technology has become and the kind of diplomatic issues that can come up. That a space such as X or Twitter, as used to be called, is a very easy space to light a fire, and you'll have countries fighting over issues that perhaps if they were willing and able enough, they would have sat down and spoken about it. I mean, these are presidents of countries. These are people who represent nations. And they are symbols of national unity. So when they're doing this on the online space, and now every other citizen comes and puts in their view and how they feel about it, I think it's unfortunate, and we hope that South Africa and Rwanda are able to resolve, because again, we do not need another war now on that side. I mean, we already have Congo and Rwanda, we have Sudan. Let's not escalate it to now have South Africa and Rwanda. I don't think that's the right way to go about it. On the other hand, the peace process has been going on for a while. Like the idea of trying to bring peace to the region has been entertained for quite some time now. We had Kenyan forces among other force members who are there trying to bring peace, but the ICAF members, that whole idea of bringing peace failed. So what happened? They brought in Angola through African Union. So Angola has been trying to have negotiations, but somehow they have not managed to come to an agreement. So the president of Angola, who's Joao Lourenco, demanded that there must be an immediate withdrawal of Rwandan troops from Congolese territory, and he's been spearheading the peace talks. However, even just before the M23 attack happened this week, last month in December, there were peace talks in Angola, but again they failed. So, and African Union has called again that these talks should come back, and they have called both the Congolese and Rwandan leaders to meet urgently in Luanda, that's Angola's capital. So we're hoping also using that part of it, they will try and get to a common understanding. And hopefully we get our brothers on that side of Africa to a peaceful space. Kenya is also part of this. And why Kenya is part of this is because we are part of East Africa community, the Jumuiya. And currently Jumuiya is chaired by Kenya's President William Ruto. However, there's something that President Ruto wrote again on Twitter, which has brought a lot of backlash for Kenya in these peace talks, or this whole Congo, DRC, Rwanda conflict. And the issue is the president of Kenya tweeted and said that he had a conversation with Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, and that did not sit well with especially West African nations. Why this did not sit well with West African nations is because most of the West African nations were colonized by France, and they actually went through a very ugly space of colonization with France. So most of them were looking at an East Africa president speaking to a colonizer who's also a new colonizer, because again, France is accused of taking a lot of minerals from West African nations to their country. So most of these citizens and the leaders of West Africa felt that it was a blunder for Kenya's president to talk to their colonizer to try and bring peace. And if you go to President Ruto's Twitter account, you will see a lot of that. And hopefully somehow we will be able to resolve this. Something that this also could affect, the whole idea of speaking to Macron, is that Raila Odinga's candidacy for Africa Union Commission is coming up next month in February. And of course, we were expecting that we could get votes from our West African nations. And we are praying and hoping this particular issue of President Ruto speaking to Macron will not then affect how the voting for Raila Odinga happens. So we wish Raila the best, and I think these are important lessons for any leader to just understand how diplomatic issues and foreign affairs work, because some of these things are happening with the emergence of technology. The older generation of leaders never went through this, but the current and the upcoming leaders, they have to just understand how to run around technology and also think of the impact of using technology in the diplomatic sphere. Someone else who's in this whole issue of conflict, of course, is East Africa's oldest president at the moment, who's also still the president of Uganda, none other than Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. The UN, still some experts accuse Uganda of supplying weapons to the hosted rebel leaders, and they've allowed the cross-border movements of M23 fighters. So these accusations, however, Kampala has said, no, we are not behind that. And in fact, the Ugandan president, Museveni, has said he's ready to mediate efforts to end the conflict. So you can see how the two countries and the fact that we share borders, which of course are colonial borders, have an impact on everyone around the East African space and going downwards to the ACDC area. So something else that was key is that there were white mercenaries who were fighting in Congo. They were from France, they were from Russia, they were from Moldova, like all these countries. And it begs the question, why are white people so concerned about Congo that they have to send mercenaries to go and fight? Like, why are mercenaries coming to fight in a country and to ensure that Congo will never know peace? It just tells you the whole, the end game of this conflict, and whoever engineered is geared towards ensuring that Congo will never know peace. And because of the lack of peace, everyone is able to protect their mines. So they come, mine the African minerals that are available, take them back to their countries, which is really unfortunate. And I hope as Africans, we can open our eyes and see how terrible that these people have decided we will destabilize this country so much, destabilize the whole of the continent, because you see now having Rwanda now start a fight with Congo, Rwanda have an issue with South Africa, put all these other nations together. When you make people fight, people will never enjoy peace. If we don't enjoy peace and we have the resources, eventually those resources are stolen and taken to the West. So I think it's time for Africans in general and the African leaders to come to a point where they understand this whole mess that is being pushed around and push for a better East Africa, a better South Africa region, a better West Africa region, and eventually just have a peaceful African continent where we all coexist peacefully as one people, because that is what we are and that is what Africa is. And that was the dream of the older generation of Kwame Nkrumah and everyone who was there back in the day when we got our independence. So yeah, that's the story of Congo and the politics that are involved. I hope you caught a thing or two. If you have something that I missed, you can share with us in the comment section. Thank you for watching. Catch you on the next episode, and hopefully by then the war will have, or the conflict will have come to a peaceful resolution. See you then.